What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to this special video. So, originally the plan was to do this video to celebrate my channel hitting 100 subscribers, but the process of me deciding what to do with this video and actually doing the video has taken so long that we've already passed 200 subscribers. So thank you all so much to everyone who has subscribed. This video is for you. Now, some of this episode is going to include some story time, so I've put together this nice little room for us to chill in. I'll sit here, you guys can sit there, and let's talk for a moment about me. So, I'm Bob Frisco, as you know, but what you might not have known is that I am not just a Minecraft being. That's right, sometimes I slip out into other games like Subnautica, and I actually have a real-life avatar that I use to play my actual life. And that's the me that I want to talk about a little bit. Because you see, I would not say that me is primarily a gamer. I definitely do enjoy video games. But in reality, the thing I am most is a musician. Maybe the best thing I could do to explain is show you this little thing that I put together one time when I was just goofing around in Minecraft a little bit. You guys know I like to play Minecraft, but if you were to meet me in real life, it'd be a little more something like this. At a fairly young age, I started playing piano and learning music theory. I also picked up some other instruments, most notably upright bass, and I was in orchestras and jazz bands all growing up, as well as doing lots of piano playing on my own. So much so that when I went to college, I actually was a music major and recently finished getting a bachelor's of music. Somewhere along the way, I got really into electronic dance music, or EDM. And I started learning how to produce that, and how to make that. And all of that is merely just to explain to you a bit about my musical background. Because, as many of you know, I make all of the music in my Minecraft videos myself. That was a special little goal that I gave myself that I wanted to work on, just to keep myself, making music, doing music. Because in reality, I didn't start this channel intending to be a gaming YouTuber. I have, for a long time, had several ideas of music-based YouTube channels that I wanted to do. However, I have always held myself back on the thought that I don't know how to edit videos or, be a YouTuber. And so finally, I decided that I wasn't ever going to know how to do it until I did it. And I thought that Minecraft would be a really chill, low-stress way of doing something fun, then practicing video editing and running a YouTube channel. And so I've been blown away by how well the channel has done. But all in all still, it has just been practice for me. And the plan has always been to start up some musical stuff later. Now don't worry, that doesn't mean that this channel is going to get abandoned at some point. I do love video games quite a lot, so I will probably always be doing something on this channel. But I wanted something musical to be doing while I was learning about video editing and running a YouTube channel. And so I gave myself the challenge to make the music for all of my Minecraft videos. Quite a while back now, I did a little poll where I asked you guys what you wanted to see in a special video, and the winning choice was a video about how I make the music for my videos. And so I'm going to go over that a bit, and I think we're actually going to, together, well, as part of this video, I'm even going to make a new song that will show up in future episodes, and you guys will get to see how I go through that process. But I did want to give you guys a bit of background information about me as a musician, just as a warning that I have had a lot of training, lots of years of practicing different aspects of music, and so there are a lot of things that are quick and natural for me that could take a long time to learn if getting into making music is something you want to do. That's not to say that it's that difficult to learn to make music, but just a warning that I'm not just some guy who hopped on the computer and decided to make some music. This has been years in the coming for me. Maybe some of you smarties out there could figure out how to make your own music a lot quicker than I did. So welcome to one of my favorite video games of all time, FL Studio. This isn't actually a game, this is music production software. For those of you who do know the lay of the land a bit, I've also worked in Pro Tools, Logic, and a little bit in Ableton Live, and FL has ended up being the one that has matched my workflow the best, so it's the one I've gone with. It's a great piece of software. There is a free trial version you can try out if you're interested. You do have to pay for the full version. So I think basically I'm just going to go about making a song and talk about my process and how I do it along the way. So to start, we need to give this a name. And I think I'm going to call it Love My Subs, because I do. The first thing I'm going to do is pull up a simple little piano instrument. I have a little keyboard next to me that I can play. Because I am a pianist, this is how I like to do things and play around, is actually using a keyboard on my desk next to me. So when it comes to making music, the first thing that I always ask myself is, what is the purpose of it? And in the case of these videos, it is usually just meant to evoke a specific emotion. The music in my videos is fairly straightforward emotionally, like this one's happy, this one's maybe more sad, this one's more intense. Nothing too complex emotionally. For example, for the song we're going to try and make today, let's maybe go with something calm and positive, but with a little bit of energy to it, a little bit of pep in its step. The next thing that I would do is listen to songs that match the feeling that I'm trying to create. Listen to them, analyze them, figure out what they're doing. For a brief example, when I first started out, I was listening to a lot of songs in people's videos that were very happy, very positive, but they weren't overly trite. There was a bit of interest to them, and they weren't cheesy or childish in any way. And as I was listening and analyzing them, I discovered a little something. If I pull up a piano here, you can kind of see where I'm playing, where the orange notes are lighting up. As some of you may know, if I just play from C to C on the white notes, that is a major scale. A lot of songs use this scale. But what I discovered as I was listening and analyzing these other songs is that if we take this second to last note and lower it down to this black one, that's another type of scale that's called mixolydian. And I realized a lot of these songs were using that scale, which gives us some different chord choices than we would find in just a normal major key. So that, for example, is something I learned by studying music that was achieving the purposes I wanted to achieve and figuring out how they were doing what they were doing. The other thing I'd like to do right now is just decide what key we're working in. I know a lot of music theory, and I know that a lot of people getting into music, that it's pretty complicated and rough. I won't go into everything about it now. All I'll say is knowing key signatures and which key signatures are closely related to each other is something musicians have used for a long time. Old composers like Mozart and Beethoven, their symphonies, which are made up of different movements, those movements would be in closely related keys. And even like modern DJs, they like to know about the keys of songs so that when they're transitioning from one song to another, even if it's in a different key, if it's a closely related key, that transition is smoother on the ears versus jumping to a new key that's really far away and it's kind of a jarring transition. In my videos, I've been trying to use a lot of closely related keys so that as the music changes throughout my videos, the transitions aren't very jarring. That being said, a lot of things have been based around C major and keys that are related to that. And one of the related keys would be F. So today we're going to be using the F mixolydian scale. So with all that decided then, it's time to start actually putting some music down. Now here for me, this is where things get the most varied. Sometimes I start with a beat, sometimes I start with a bass line, sometimes I start with a melody, sometimes I start with a chord progression. It literally just depends on whatever I'm feeling inspired about at the moment. And to be honest, I don't really have anything right now, so I'm just going to start messing around in F mixolydian and see what I come up with. Alright, I don't know exactly where this will go, but I've got a cool little riff going. So let's just roll with that for now. So I'll start with some simple riff like this. And then I'll just start adding things and seeing where it goes. The next thing I'm hearing in my mind is a bass. So I'm going to add a synth bass. You guys may also notice that my music tends to be a mixture of like piano, pizzicato strings, and electronic, and that's because I am primarily a classical musician and an EDM artist. So this isn't necessarily the bass sound I'm going to stick with, but I usually don't worry about sound design until later. But in my mind, I'm hearing something like... which is basically just a little repeating rhythm that's following the chord changes. Throw that in with our piano, and it sounds like this. And that bass sound is going to get annoying real quick, so let's go ahead and shape my bass sound the way I want it real quick. So I've gone for a pretty simple bass sound. Yeah, and I'm liking this so far. So I think the next thing I do is put some drums underneath this, get a little loop going, and I'll be honest, I really don't know how in-depth to go with all this, because I imagine most of you are Minecraft fans and not necessarily music production fans. Yeah, I think just a nice steady kick drum is good. I always love me some shakers. And if there's one thing I've learned in my time producing music, it's that it is really hard to have too many percussion layers. Every layer of percussion is usually a good thing and adds to the groove and adds to the feel of a song. So I think now I want to get some sort of melody over the top of this. So I'm just going to let this play for a bit, and I'm just going to mess around over the top of it and see what I can come up with in terms of a melody. So I came up with a simple little melody. And then it's again, but a little bit different. And it sounds, in context, something like this. And just like that, we've got chords, bass, a beat, melody, all very simple, but technically enough to work with. This is almost a full thing that we could expand out already. Although I usually like to go a little bit deeper, a little more. I like to add a little bit more than just that. So now the next thing I like to do, and this is just something I enjoy doing for fun, is I'll take my different parts, for example, things that are played by a piano, and I'll try having different instruments play them, a synthesizer playing them, a violin, a clarinet, whatever, and just see how it sounds. So I may end up with a little synth lead like this that I can layer along with the piano melody. So then maybe I decide to do that little piano riff on a synthesizer, and it ends up sounding something like this. And so I just like to layer lots of different sounds on top of each other. And then what I'll do is I'll just play the music on repeat, and I'll mute different things and take them out and see how it sounds. And so then you can hear different ways that you can layer up all these different parts. So I like to just create a part of the song and pack it as thickly as I can with different instruments, different percussion and everything. And then I figure out what I can take out to have some sections that are more sparse, and that will eventually be built into the whole track. For now, I'm going to try and add in more percussion. I don't know if this even needs any more percussion, but I'm going to give it a go, see if I like it or not. Alright, so I went ahead and grabbed some other percussion things that just do little hits here and there in the background. I also added a hi-hat and a snare. I don't remember if I said that. So at this point, we've got a pretty fun little groove that's going on. I really like all the parts of it. And now I would start thinking of how I can arrange this into a complete piece. One thing I might consider doing so that the piece isn't too much of the same is now creating a second part that has different chords, different feel to it, just kind of a B section to contrast this A section. One of my favorite ways to go about doing that is to kind of drift towards the relative minor. So what we're playing now is based around F, and I know that the minor that's relative to that is D. So I messed around with the chords a little bit, did things that hung around a little bit more in the key of D minor, and then right at the end it has a little turnaround that should take us back into that F major, F mixolydian feel. Here's how that sounds. And I think it works. So I can get that whole B section all layered up too, and then I just need to come up with a little melody to go over the top of the B section. And the melody should be somewhat different from the original melody. So I threw together a little melody for the B section. It sounds a little like this. Nothing too complicated, and it goes right back into the first melody. Those sounds still need a little bit of work, but we basically have, an A section and a B section. And so then we can get into actually arranging the song. So I usually like to start with almost basically just the simplest thing that is interesting to listen to, but kind of shows off what the whole song is going to be like. And I think our little piano riff is interesting enough to stand on its own. And then I'd probably say that right there we can bring in our shaker and other random percussion that happens. And it's kind of nice to basically have something new be introduced and coming in about every 4 measures. So maybe right there we could bring in our bass. And it can also be fun to have something drop out right before a lot of things come in. So like we could have our shaker stop for a moment and then bring in a whole bunch of stuff. And then as I'm arranging, the question I like to ask is, how slowly do I want it to build, or how quickly do I want it to build? If I want to take like a bit of time developing, then here I'd probably say, let's now switch over to that new minor section we threw in and continue to just have the piano playing. We don't have any of the synths in yet. And I'd probably strip down the percussion a little bit too. Maybe we could take out the snare and the hi-hat. And this would be a place where I could have things cut out if we leave the kick drum out for a measure before that transition. And it can be nice to kind of try and always, if you come back to something you've already done, have it be a little different. So right now, this section here is the same as this section here. So maybe I would want to bring my synth melody in this second time so it's a little bit different than it was the first time. And it feels just a little peppier, a little more lifted than the last time we did it. And we could kind of continue this back and forth pattern a little bit more. So let's grab our minor section again, slide it on over here, and this time we'll have our other synth melody playing along with it. And so that's very basically an idea of how you could take a cool little loop you've got and expand it into something longer that slowly builds over time. I would maybe want to go back through and change up the percussion a bit more than I have, And then for something of an outro, I found the way I like to do it is just drop all percussion and have everything else. And to a degree, that's kind of all I need to do. We've built out this song, and now all that would be left to do is work a little bit more on the sound design, get the synths sounding the way I want to, some mixing to just help everything fit together so that nothing is covering up a different part that's more important. And I can add some fun effects like reverb and delay. So I'll show you guys a little bit of that, but I'm not going to get too nitty gritty with this because this is like music production stuff. All right, so I've listened through it a few times. One of the best ways I've found to work on music is to just sit down, listen to it. You're not allowed to make any changes while you're listening, but you can make notes on things you want to change. And then everything you made a note about, fix it. And then when you can listen through it and you don't want to change anything, then it's good. You're good to go. Only two things I wanted to change with this is that the sections with our main melody, our first melody, the A sections, I think they can stand to be a bit longer, so I think I'm going to expand those each out just a bit more. And the transitions felt fairly weak, so I'm going to do some little tricks to help the transitions be a little bit stronger. So I went ahead, expanded out my A sections a little bit, and now when it comes to transitions, the two tricks I like to use most, and this is pretty EDM-y, is using risers and impacts. So basically you have some sort of sound that's rising into the transition and then an impact at the transition that kind of launches you into the new section. Easiest example I can give of an impact is just like a nice crash cymbal. So now a riser would be something like this. Pretty simple, but we can throw that in, and using that layered with everything else, again, the volume is a little too high on that, but it kind of helps push you into the transition. It almost lets your ear know something new is coming. So I like that. All right, sounding really good. I like the transitions a lot better. So I think I'm going to start getting into some mixing. Mixing is really complex and there's a lot to it. So I'll show you a bit here and there, but this isn't going to be comprehensive. Cool. I think I've pretty much done the EQing and compression I want to. I might tweak a few things later, but let's add some reverb and delay because those are really fun. So if I take my little piano riff and add some reverb, listen to how that changes the sound. Kind of puts the sound into a space, and I think that's really good. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to various elements of the song. And while we're playing around with space a bit, I'll also do a little bit of panning. Let me show you what that sounds like. So this will only work really well if you're using headphones or a stereo of some sort. If you're just listening on your phone speaker, you won't really be able to hear this. But I can move it all the way over to the left or all the way over to the right. Or we can have it in the middle and you hear it in both. And so that lets me play around with where things, again, are in the space of the song. So here's where we were at before we added any reverb. And here it is with reverb. It just adds kind of a nice shimmer in the high end, I think. I like it. And the other fun thing we can add is called delay. So reverb kind of gave the sound an echo that makes it feel like it's in a space. Delay is more like an audible echo. Let me show you. So that's a pretty extreme delay there, but you can kind of hear what it's going to do to the sound. So yeah, reverb and delay are a fun way to add some interest and substance to a song. And honestly, that's pretty much it. I could do a little bit more polishing and detail work. There's a little bit more in the mastering side of things. But again, if you want to learn more about music production, then go watch some stuff on music production. Two channels I could definitely recommend if you want to learn more are called In the Mix and EDM Tips. Those are both two channels on YouTube that are really great. Michael Wynn does In the Mix and Will Darling does EDM Tips, and they are both very knowledgeable, very good teachers. So if you want to learn more about music production, go check out their stuff. So there you have it. That is more or less the process I go through to make the music for my videos. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know me a little bit more, learning a little bit more about my musical side. If you are interested in listening to more of the music I've done, check out Vaso Deluge, VASO space DE space LUZ. That's the name I produce EDM music under, so you can hear a little bit more of my electronic music if you'd like. If you want to know more about music theory and music production, I am planning on putting together more materials in that vein on a different channel, and I'll keep you guys posted when that comes out. But once again, thank you to all my subscribers. You guys make what I'm doing so worth it, and I can't wait to continue having fun with you guys throughout 2024. So I will see you guys in the next episode, and have a great day.